a second and see. If he doesn't show up, we'll assume maybe he figured that the conditions were too bad and he couldn't make it, and he decided to go elsewhere. And while we're waiting on him, I'll go ahead and see if we can go ahead and plug in our St. Maarten Airport so we can fly back there. And I think we should plan on shooting an approach when we go back, because there's just no telling what the weather's going to be. There he is. Very cool. I think that may be another 208. And I think he just ran off the end of the runway. Pretty cool. Oh, that was neat. It looked like maybe he did not go through the hill. I thought that the other day when I saw that one did, but it might have been just so close to it, it looked like it. So let's just look down here and let's make sure we want to go back to Princess Juliana at St. Maarten, TN CM Tango November Charlie Mike, and so we're going to enter that and activate it, and there's our magenta line. Now what we'll go ahead and do is hit our procedure key and select an approach. So we'll use this big knob here and enter that, and then we can come down here and pick our approach, and we've got a VOR, DME, or VOR approach, and I will say we'll go with the VOR DME, and we'll enter that, and then we want to go ahead and I think as close as we are, we'll just go ahead and activate it, and so that'll take us to the final approach fix. Now while we're sitting on the ground, let me go ahead and get the VOR frequency off of the chart to have Princess Juliana approach chart for the VOR for runway 10, and the frequency is of the VOR is 113.0. So we're going to put that in here, and I want to put that in the nav 1, so let's go to 0 there and 113. There we are. So we've got that up in our number 1 nav 1, and then our CDI we're still on the GPS, which right now is going to take us to the final approach fix of the VOR DME approach into runway 10 at St. Barth. So that's what we want there. And let's see, our altitude, we need to go ahead and set that back up to 1,500 feet. So there's that, and our heading, en route heading will be 097. So we'll go ahead and set our heading up to agree with that, 097. And let me close this box. I hit flight plan, I think. Yeah. And I just want to pull out this range here. 097 is actually that heading right there. We're going to be flying pretty much downwind of that. We really need a heading of about 270. It didn't make sense to me to be flying east to get back. So we'll just fly downwind leg, and then we'll come over and intercept this magenta line, and that'll take us into the airport. Okay, so let's go ahead and taxi on over, parking brake released, and our fuel pump. Let's see, let's check our switches over here. Fuel boost is in the norm position, batteries on, ignition's norm, generators on, everything's still good there. And we have our strobes on, nav on, beacon on, cut our landing lights back on, and I'd say we're good to go there. I don't know where that other airplane went. Yep, this is a interesting little storm we're flying in. This weather is actually provided by Active Sky Next. This is what it's doing at St. Barth. Currently I'm flying in real time here in August. Late in the afternoon, it's 7:22. It looks like it's a lot darker than it should be at 7:22, and I think that is in August because of the storm that we're experiencing. So we're going to want 10 degrees of flaps, and it looks like there's the other airplane over there taxiing in. So I am not worried about getting off of this runway in plenty of time. There is a hill in front of us. We are going to need to make a left turn out after departure and climb up to our altitude, but this airplane will easily get off the runway way before we get to the end. So I am going to hold the brakes, advance the power. Is that a 208? Oh yes, 208. Let's say that's a great airplane, Grand Caravan. We're flying in and out of small airports, short runways. There's 40 knots, 50 knots, 60, 70, and ease the nose up. And let's just go ahead and bring her on around. The sea was angry that day, my friends. Yes, indeed. So we're going to just come bring it on around to a heading of about 270. Continue our climb. Let's go ahead and get our flaps off. Just sort of help use our flight director to help lead us. Keep everything where it's supposed to be. Now it's wanting me to turn left. I think it wants me to intercept that GPS course, but I have other ideas. So let's go ahead and get our autopilot on. And I'm going to go with our heading, and let's see if we can get our altitude. Get our nose up here where it belongs. Really. Pulling back on the stick, and I don't know why, but we are really descending. Okay, not sure what's happening here. Let's see if we can figure it out. We're still flying. We're at 1,500 feet. We could have just hit a mountain. That's the best guess I got right now. If we did, I guess that would just erase how great my landing was. So let's see if I can get this autopilot on. I think something was going on there. Did we hit the... Was there a mountain back there? You know, I have a way of finding out. I'm recording this with this FS recorder, so we'll find out. Okay, autopilot, altitude. select, there we are, and let's bring our altitude up to 1500, or down to 1500. There's 1500, and we're at a heading of 273. We'll bring it to 275, which is exactly parallel to runway 10 at St. Maarten. And again, we're in total IFR conditions, and that's okay. I'm going to add some power. Pull my flaps up. I thought I had. You can never check yourself too much flying an airplane. There's always a possibility that you've forgotten something. Well, just for the heck of it, for right now, we'll cut our landing lights off and our taxi lights off. Sometimes even in clouds, it's a good idea to cut your strobes off because they can cause vertigo. The reflection of the strobes on the clouds can cause you to become disoriented. So since we're in the clouds and we would be relying completely on air traffic control to keep us separated, if anybody sees those strobes, it's probably too late at this point. So this is where we're heading over here. We want to come over here and intercept this magenta line and fly this radial from the VOR inbound to the runway. And so we're maintaining an altitude of 1,500 feet. We're flying about 140 knots. I'm just keeping the speed down in this turbulent weather. We don't have any passengers right now, but if we did, I'm sure they would be complaining quite bitterly. We've kept our inertia separator pulled out with all this rain. I really feel like that's the best thing. And we're certainly fine with our power. We have plenty of it. And yeah, stormy night in the Antilles Islands. Yeah, I'm going to have to go back and replay FS Recorder and see just what happened after that departure. I possibly could have made the turn too tight and clipped a mountain coming out of there. And, you know, rookie mistake. Well, I think we're out of the worst of the weather for the moment. Most of the time these thunderstorms in the tropical areas are isolated, scattered, and usually fairly easy to see, and you can circumnavigate them. This airplane most likely has radar. It's equipped with radar, but it's not modeled. I think if we look over here at our map, we'll see that we have a few different pages, and when we turn the little knob, you can see this is a page that shows traffic. We're in the middle, and it's all the way around us. So yeah, lots of traffic out there. I'm just not real sure that those targets are really all airplanes that are actually flying right now, but you know, who knows. This page right here shows our terrain and our proximity to it. That would have been helpful earlier. So those are the only three. Let's see. This one is our waypoints. This is an auxiliary, and that is showing our nearest airports. So I don't know. It seems like there was radar option on here, but that's something we can look into later. Right now, we got an approach to fly. keep an eye on where we are and make sure we get home safely. Thing I did not do that I should have is to adjust my prop pitch. I'm still flying at probably 1900 or so RPMs. Normally I would want to cruise around 1800, so you can adjust that back using your control F2 key, or you can pull the prop lever back. So I'm just going to adjust it back here to 1800. Even though we're getting close to making our approach, what we would do then is on final approach is we want to actually go full RPM in case of a go around. But right now we're right there about 1800. And pretty close to being ready to make a turn in towards the final approach course. Zoom in, and I think I will go ahead and get us heading that way. I'm showing us about 11 miles away from the fix, and if I weren't having so much fun, I would have probably flown a much tighter pattern and got us down on the ground quicker. But you know, we're just out flying in the clouds and in the weather, having a good time. In fact, I think we'll pop outside and see how things look out there. Now we've got the strobes off, landing lights off. All I can see is our beacon and our nav lights. It'd be a good idea to go ahead and cut the strobes back on. I do see the moon back there behind us. Yeah, let's cut the strobes back on now. And since we're getting ready to be in the pattern here, we'll go ahead and cut our landing lights on too. Turn inbound just a bit. So we got a wind coming from the east, 15 knot wind, and I do believe that's pushing us further away from the airport. So I'm just going ahead and crabbing into the wind to correct that. In fact, we're getting close enough to go ahead and turn into an intercept heading for that final approach course. Usually about a 30-40 degree intercept heading. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it on around to about 060. Airport's out there somewhere. Look at that moon. That is beautiful. And you gotta love Flight Simulator does a good job of simulating the real world. If you can't afford to fly a $2.4 million airplane, this isn't a bad alternative. So you can see from our course deviation indicator, each one of these dots is a mile. Hey, there's some traffic. These going to be coming in ahead of us, so we'll be following him in. And I'm going to go ahead and ease off the power just a little bit. Don't know what kind of plane that is. We're doing 100 and almost 70 knots, so we could be a lot faster than him. Or he could be a jet, and I'd say as far away as he is now that's more likely. He's going in pretty quick, so we'll be coming in right after him. We're at number 2 for landing. And now that we're established on the final approach course, I'm going to go ahead and put us on nav, which will then make whatever necessary adjustments are required to track that course inbound. And we're right now 5 miles from this next fix, which is MA09. And just taking a quick look at the approach plate, that is the point where we can begin our descent down to the runway. We would be at that point about, based on this chart, about 5 miles from the end of the runway when we reach that MA09 point. And we're at 1,500 feet right now, so we should be able to easily descend down to runway elevation. I'm going to go ahead and get us a notch of flaps in here. And our fuel boost is in the normal position. Go ahead and cut it up to on. I want to go ahead and bring our props up full and push our inert separator in. Actually, I'm going to leave that out. I believe there might be some water on that runway. And let's go ahead and get rid of the autopilot and the yaw damper. And we're going to fly this part by hand and visually. There's the other airplane on the runway. Now those are the PAPI lights there on the end of the runway. They're showing 4 white lights right now. And I'll get rid of that flight director. It's distracting. So that's just showing me that I'm a little high. I do have plenty of runway here to work with. It's not like over at St. Barth. It's, we don't want to come up short, that's for sure, especially flying at night. You know, if you lose an engine, you're on final approach, it's really nice that if you'd be able to glide to the runway and make it without ending up in the water. But of course we'd also want to make sure we touch down reasonably close to the end. So I'm just keeping that first notch of flaps in here, especially with all this wind, 20 degrees, and I'll probably actually just go ahead and land with just those 20 degrees of flaps. We're doing about 90 knots now, and of course the PAPI lights are showing us below glide slope. I have plenty of airspeed I can trade for altitude. I'm now backing off on my power and letting the airplane slow down. And we've got to make it over the fence. And we're down. And beta. Now I think our turnoff is right there, if I'm not mistaken. It's really hard to see here at night. Normally I'm looking for a yellow line to follow, but that sure does look like a turnoff. So yeah, there's our yellow line right there. How you like that? Follow that taxi line, and that should take us back over to our parking space. We're going to raise our flaps, and we'll go ahead now and cut off our landing lights, leave our taxi light on. We can cut off our strobes. That was quite a flight. I rather enjoyed it. I hope we didn't do too much damage to the airplane. We may or may not have hit something. Taking off from St. Bart's. Could have been some trees. I don't know. We're going to replay that. I'm going to replay that. And I think I'll, if it's not too embarrassing, I'll replay it, and then I may post it later on, or not. See what's going on here. Where do we taxi? There's the fence. I think we were parked right over there. There's actually a general aviation parking area on the other end of this field. And I suppose we could taxi. Yeah, this was our parking spot. We'll just flip it around here. And we'll call that good. Okay, taxi light is off. Set our parking brake. It really is kind of hard to see. We could go ahead and cut on our cabin floods. Might help a little bit. Get some lights in here. And let's start shutting down. So what we want to do is cut off our nav lights and our prop heat and stall heat. All our electrical equipment off. We can cut off our no smoking, our seat belts, and we have ignition in the normal. Let's get our avionics off, and now we're ready to go ahead and pull back our condition lever to the cutoff position. We'll wait for that prop to stop spinning, and then we'll shut off our beacon. Prop has stopped spinning, beacon is off, and battery is off, and we're back in the dark. So, great flight, I think. And I do think we should hop out and see if we did any damage. Nope. Looks okay from here. I don't see any dents, dings. Honestly, I think we're pretty fortunate. If we just hit some turbulence back there. I don't know. When I go back and replay it, I'm sure I'll see what the error of my ways were. You know, I do this for fun. I enjoy aviation. I enjoy flight simming. I can afford a lot easier to fly Caravan, Grand Caravan on Flight Sim than I could in the real world. So, you know, I make no apologies for that. But I'm not perfect. I've been flying a long time, and you know, I've walked away from every real landing I ever made, and I made a lot of them. And I can't say that about Flight Sim. There have been a few times when I have pushed the envelope, probably much further than I ever would in the real world. But you know, it's that's how you learn. You know, you try things you haven't done before, and thankfully, Flight Sim will forgive our error of our ways. So, yep, I think our airplane is just fine. So, you know, we'll fly it again. And we're over here in the trees now. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. And thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed that flight as much as I did. And hey, we'll see you next time. Have a good one. Bye now.